City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers, Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. A council delegation has been invited to tomorrow's royal opening of the Avanti drone. Rotorua hosts the iwi Radio Awards, and Xterra New Zealand hits town with 2,000 athletes expected to take part. Mayor Steve Chadwick and Deputy Mayor Dave Donaldson will lead a council delegation tomorrow at the official opening of the Cambridge Avanti drone by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. The council collaborated on the joint bid with the Waikato District Council. 6 district councillors along with 2 youth councillors will attend the event. Dave Donaldson says the New Zealand Cycling Centre of Excellence will result in real spin-offs for our growing reputation as a premier cycling destination. Māori broadcasters from around the country are here tomorrow night for the iwi Radio Awards. Manager of Te Arawa's iwi radio station, Rawiri Waru, says the station is nominated in several categories.
We've got into the finals for a few of the categories, so it's really chuffed. We put in a few entries, and most of them come up trumps. So it was good.
Wonderful. So what are those categories?
Oh, I've got the top of my head here. Some is for the best. Yeah, I'll give you a couple of the best OB, which is an outside broadcast, which we put on our broadcast for Te Matatini that happened here in Rotorua last year. Also, we've got our best comedy as well, the best comedy thing on radio. Also, He Tohu Whakanui, and that's for one of our workers here who's been in the industry for a long time. She doesn't know we put her name forward, but she's actually been nominated as one of the finalists for that category, where they acknowledge someone who's had a major contribution to Te Awapapaho Māori.
A health warning has been issued for both Okawa Bay and Okere Arm on Lake Rotowiti. Monitoring results provided by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council have confirmed blooms of blue-green algae, which are potentially toxic in these 2 parts of the lake. Medical Officer of Health Dr Neil DeWitt says signage has been erected at the lake about the algal bloom. Monitoring will continue and any changes in advice will be communicated. In sport tonight, over 2,000 athletes are expected to take part in tomorrow's Xterra New Zealand. The off-road triathlon has different events at Lake Tikatapu.
That's been running for 11 years this year, and always really well participated. You know, you've got some really top multi-sport athletes that take part in it, and you've got your families who do the fun run as well as everyone in between. So it's kind of an event for everybody. If you don't like swimming and you just want to do the run, well, you can be part of a team, or you can do the whole lot as an individual.
To your weather now, and the forecast tonight is rain easing with light winds and an overnight low of 13. And a reminder that every Friday you can plan your weekend activities with help from our weekend weather roundup with Met Service straight after City News. Still to come in tonight's program, we hear from Labor MP Jacinda Ardern about her party's Best Start policy. We're at Scion to talk with CEO Dr Warren Parker, and the library celebrates their 125th anniversary.
Children's welfare is at the heart of most New Zealanders, and Labour Party are making a big issue of it this year for the election. Now today we're going to be talking with Labour MP and spokesperson for children, Jacinda Ardern. Thanks for joining us today, Jacinda. Now recently your leader, Labour leader David Cunliffe, released the Best Start policy. Can you just explain how that works?
Well, it's got 3 elements to it. The first is extra financial support for families when they first have a baby. We know it's a really expensive time of life. It's also the most critical in terms of a child's development. So So we're going to extend paid parental leave from 14 to 26 weeks, and also introduce a Best Start payment, because roughly 60% of families aren't eligible for paid parental leave, and so for those families they'll get a $60 a week payment for the first year of their child's life. And for lower modest income earners, that payment keeps going until their child turns 3 years of age. Then we've got the education elements, because of course at 3 things start changing. It's a little easier to have the little ones in early childhood education, and so we've extended the free hours from 20 hours to 25, which will make a big difference for a lot of families. And then we've done some extra things around health, like free antenatal classes, 10-week maternal health checks, and also making sure Plunkett has a bit more resource to do more visits for families who need it most.
Now, this all sounds pretty good, and just
Oh, it
recently,
is.
just recently that David released all this. Have you heard from any mums and dads, on the street?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing a roadshow, so I've been this week alone. I've been in Hastings and Palmerston North and Masterton, talking to families about these policies, and overwhelmingly people are really supportive. But also, like grandparents who want to make sure that their mokopuna are getting well supported, and that they have every opportunity that they did and that their children did.
Now, taking paid parental leave from 14 to 24 weeks, that's an extra 10 weeks that small to medium enterprises have to pay out. Where do you think they're going to find the money? Because that's huge over that amount of time, over 5 years.
Well, the issue, I guess, for the business, so that the government pays the paid parental leave, but what business is required to do is find a replacement for that person. So the only cost for them should be just recruitment to bring someone on board, and the trickiness that comes with just holding a place open. But, we've had pretty good support from employers around paid parental leave, and actually it might be easier for them to find someone to replace someone for 6 months than it would currently for the little 14 weeks that people do at the moment. So it might actually have a benefit for them too.
What do you think of a debt-based system? Because every year we borrow money.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what government is in, we borrow money and get us further into debt. And it's happening all around the world. So what's your view on that system?
And we're in almost at an unprecedented level at the moment in that regard. So we've got a plan to bring our books back into the black, to get back into surplus. But also, we've got to start thinking about our economic sovereignty, not being so reliant on foreign countries' investment in New Zealand and us having to borrow in order to operate. Now, there are things we can do to change that. If we had more equity, more cash flowing around New Zealand through things like our superannuation schemes, that would make a big difference to what our books look like and where we end up borrowing from, and just the equity that flows around our system. So had we not got rid of our compulsory super back in the day, we'd be looking in a lot better shape as a country now, and we wouldn't be so reliant on those offshore funds.
I'm glad you answered it the way that you did, because it leads me to the next question.
Yes.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement.
Yes.
It's been negotiated in secret.
Yes.
Countries all around the world, the 9 main countries that are going to be involved in this, all of them are protesting. We protested last week. What's your view on that?
Yeah, and we've called on the government to table the text. It's so difficult for us to be able to hold up a magnifying glass to what's going on when the government just won't tell us what they're negotiating. Our bottom line is that we will not sign anything that cedes our economic sovereignty. We must be able to do things like continue to run Pharmac as a cheaper way of negotiating drug supply. We should be able to, for instance, put blank packaging on cigarettes if it's better for our population without being sued by a company. We must maintain our own right to govern ourselves. Now, some have raised that the TPPA agreement might not let us do that anymore, and we've said we wouldn't sign up to an agreement that took away those rights. Having said that, we've benefited economically from free trade agreements in the past. We've always been careful to make sure that the benefits outweigh the cost for us, though. So we've said, show us the text and then let's talk. But right now, the secrecy is not good enough.
That's not really, especially in democracy now. There's lots of
but come September, if Labor's in charge, then we get to negotiate on our terms and make sure we do what's missing now.
Well, let's talk about that. If Labor do get into government.
When Labor does get into government.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Comment. What's your role going to be? You're obviously going to have a few portfolios.
Yeah, well, things get changed around a little. So first I'd have fingers crossed that I'd be in the cabinet that gets elected by our MPs. But if I had the jobs I have now, I would then be Minister for Children, for Police, for Corrections, and for Arts, Culture and Heritage.
Wow,
Yep.
that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be a big job.
Jacinda Arden, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Waste disposal is a problem for any council here in New Zealand, and down here at Scion, the Waste Treatment T-Rex Pilot Scheme program is under funding review from the Rotorua District Council, as Dr. Warren Parker explains. Hi Warren, thanks for joining us today. Now, what was your reaction when you found out that the RDC was going to defer their payment, or defer the decision about funding T-Rex?
Initially we were a little disappointed, but overall we're not surprised. This is a very major decision for the Rotorua District, and it's absolutely important that the councillors get it right. We understand they required additional information about some of the alternative technologies. T-Rex is very competitive because it can do things that other technologies can't. For example, it destroys or breaks down the biosolids, it recovers the nutrients, valuable nutrients like phosphate and potassium, reduces the amount of nitrogen going into the lakes, and really importantly kills the pathogens. So it's a better solution than continuing composting and many other technologies. So we still feel confident about it because we think it's a winning solution, and we respect the council requiring additional information, and when they come back to make the decision we still feel very confident about the role of T-Rex in the future of the Rotorua District.
What sort of information were they looking for, Warren?
Well, I think mostly because the T-Rex technology has been subject to so much research and development, independent investigation, business case analysis, detailed design, there was a very large amount of information about T-Rex, but relatively less amount of information about, for example, could you moderate some of the existing technologies like composting or belt press. And so they've gone away to test, if you like, the counterfactual. What's the next best alternative, or is there a better alternative? We remain confident, based on all the numbers that we've done, that T-Rex remains the best alternative.
Now, it's been a pilot scheme for the last couple of years now. Is it deemed a success?
Oh, it's been tremendously successful. It's been one of the great programs for the Waste Minimisation Fund. It's totally transformed the way people think about dealing with biosolids. Just think about the size of the problem. 10,000 tonnes a year of biosolids from Rotorua, every year going into a landfill, plus some of the surplus liquid material being irrigated into the forest. Yeah, we just can't keep on doing that. So we need to find a solution that turns that waste into a valuable opportunity, and that's what T-Rex does. Derives energy, drives the plant, recovers the valuable nutrients, strips out the nitrogen, recovers the phosphate.
Yeah, now all this planning process that you guys have had to put in, because it's, you know, like we mentioned, it's been a lot of work. Have you had much consultation with local iwi?
Yes, they've been engaged with us, and of course for them, one of their concerns is putting compost into forests or into landfills is not really consistent with their caring for the land, kaitiakitanga. So we know they are interested, and for some parties, because we have a commercial company associated with T-Rex, that when Rotorua District Council has built its commercial demonstration plant, then others, this technology could be licensed elsewhere. So there's a commercial opportunity, and some of the local iwi investors no doubt are thinking about what's the opportunity for them to also be part of a winning technology.
When are you expecting to hear from the council about the decision to keep funding T-Rex?
My understanding is that that will occur in June, so they're doing a thorough job, and as I indicated before, I think that's absolutely the right thing for them to do. The ratepayers of Rotorua have to have confidence that this is the best decision because it's setting a direction for the next 30 to 40 years.
Now let's just jump tracks a little bit. The Bay of Plenty Regional Council have funded you guys $2.5 million for the Innovation Centre, so let's just touch on that for a moment, Warren.
So the idea with the Innovation Centre, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council has an infrastructure fund. We made an application for $2.5 million to build a new building on our innovation park here at Te Papatipu, and the idea is that we want to attract in firms, particularly further up the value chain, manufacturing value added. Why is that? Because the Bay of Plenty produces about 35% of New Zealand's logs, forest harvested, And also, over the next 10 years, about another 3 million tonnes per year is going to be harvested, and that presents a tremendous opportunity for us to add more value, process more of the logs here, and generate more jobs and earnings for the region. So the building is part of a wider strategy to grow the Rotorua and the Bay of Plenty economy, and essentially also consistent with the national strategy, which is to grow forest industry export earnings to 12 billion by 2022.
Now, we're almost out of time, so before we go, what's the carbon footprint out here at Scion? I'm guessing it's going to be pretty small.
Well, our total footprint reflects the fact that we actually use quite a lot of energy here. For example, when we fire up our pilot pulp mill here, which is 1/40th the size of the mill at Kawerau, it uses about 1/10 of all the Rotorua's power.
Wow.
So we actively manage our footprint down. We are Enviromark certified, bronze, and we're deliberately saying if we're encouraging the industry to be greener, then we also need to be responsible. We recycle paper, we minimise our water use, we measure that, we try to find cost-effective travel options with low carbon emissions, and so forth.
Well, that's a big mouthful, isn't it? Dr. Warren Parker, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, the Rotorua District Library is 125 years coming up in April, and there's a lot of history right there. Now, the best person to talk to about this is Jane Gilbert, the manager of the library, because you have had a lot of history here as well, haven't you, Jane?
I have, yes, yes. Well, in my current position, I've been here since 1995, but I've actually been with the library this time 25 years.
So you've worked your way up to the top now, you're the big boss of the library, right?
I am, yes.
So what sort of celebrations are you guys going to be doing down here at the library?
Well, this month we've actually got a couple of author visits. We've got Fiona Kidman coming to talk about her new book about June Batten. Fiona Kidman actually worked for the Rotorua District Library many, many years ago, so it's quite nice to have her around. And then Mari Ledbetter, who's going to talk about her book Peace, Power and Politics.
Well, there's a lot of topics.
Yeah, yeah.
Controversial topics.
Yeah, well, she was involved in the peace movement, so that's what her book's based on.
Yeah. How about here in the library? What sort of things are you going to be doing in here?
Well, if you've been here yesterday, was it yesterday? Day before, you'd have had some birthday cake. So we did have a cake to celebrate the 1st of April. And we've got sort of lots of little bits of things happening. We've say there's the 2 author evenings coming up. We've actually got a quiz night, but we're having that at the RSA just because they've got a bit more room, a bit more space. We're expecting quite a few teams, so maybe you guys would like to put a team into it. And then we've got a staff reunion coming up later in the year. We've got competitions and various things like that going. And then Kerry Fowler is doing a video of people's memories of the library, so he's going to be interviewing past staff, present staff, and anybody else who has used the library for a long period of time.
So anybody from the public who's had anything to do with the library can make a submission, and how can I do that?
Well, all they need to do is come in and say that they're willing to talk to us, and we'll set it up. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of history here in the library, like you mentioned right at the start, because it started way back in the 1800s down at Wahine-Mutu. Now, I don't know if our locals or our viewers know that, but that's going back a fair while.
Well, it was in 1889, April 1889. And it started in a little stall called the Comet Store down at Wahine-Mutu. Now, we can't quite work out from the photographs where it was, but there was a hotel that burnt down somewhere around that area, and we think that the store was in that area. And they set up there for quite a number of years. And it was just the city fathers decided that they needed a library for their community. And there were about 300 books in this community library, and there was a volunteer librarian who looked after it, and you had to pay a subscription to belong.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, yeah, it was. Because now we've got, you can be a member of the library for free, but in those days you actually had to pay a subscription. But the interesting thing was that their hours were quite different from ours, and I think they were open on Sundays till about 11 o'clock at night. So I guess that was what the community wanted then.
And then from there it moved to the museum on Rotorua Street. Is that correct?
There was they put down a stone and they built this place called the Victoria Institute, and it was built more or less on the same site that the library's on now, but on Rotorua Street, and they eventually built the library on that site, and I think they extended that particular site as well, so it was quite an imposing building as they were in those days.
And then from there on to Fenton Street, so it jumped around a fair bit in the mid-1900s.
From the Victoria Institute it went across to what is now the conference centre, and there was where the banquet room is now, that it sits out at the side. That's where the old library was, and I started there as a junior and too long ago, but it was all wooden shelving and wooden floors. And then it moved from there to the Masonic building in Fenton Street, and then we came in here in 1991.
Now one of the things that is synonymous with the history of libraries and books is the word or the book encyclopedias. Now probably the young people don't know what encyclopedias are these days, but again that's just a part of the history of libraries.
Yeah. Well, encyclopedias, I mean, I grew up with them, I guess, but there was no internet when I was growing up, and the encyclopedias were the be-all and end-all of information.
Did you have people knocking on the door selling volumes of encyclopedias?
Yes. But they were very, very expensive, so, you know, only institutions like libraries could afford to have them. And even then, we couldn't afford to have a new one every year. And of course, once the information comes out in published form, it's out of date. So nowadays, we've got Encyclopedia Britannica online, so you can go onto the internet and it's updated regularly.
I think the young people call it Google these days.
Oh, well, that too, yes.
Well, Jane, it's been good catching up with you again, and happy birthday to the library. So
thank you.
You can take that on behalf of the library.
I will.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And a big happy 125th birthday to the library, and here's to another 125 more. If you'd like to catch up on City News, you can visit our website tv.rotorua.co.nz, and to contact us, call the station on 07 3488 984 or email news@tv.rotorua.co.nz. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. From all the team at City News, for Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.